We're conceding a lot of shots from these set pieces, nearly one a game. It's 0.73 shots per game.
It's like a hunger thing, a getting to the ball first thing, a second balls thing.
And that's unfortunately how Liverpool have been getting targeted this season on set pieces. Deep dive, me, Josh, and today we are going to be looking at Liverpool's set-piece defending and how I believe Liverpool are being targeted in it and conceding more goals than they should do. But to start us off, Josh, I've got a data set in front of us of the shots that we've conceded, goals that we've conceded, and the expected goals that we've conceded from corners and set pieces this season. And we've also looked back at the previous 4 years as well. So we've got 5 seasons worth of data in front of us. And, I'm going to start off with the set pieces first of all, Josh. 22 games played, so not the full 38 of the Premier League season that we've compared against the others, which is why we're going to look at per 90 metrics. But all told, Liverpool rank from set pieces in shots against, goals against, and expected goals against worse in every category than the previous 4 years. Yeah. Is that something that surprised you?
A little bit. I mean, when I was watching the game a few months back, I think it was Brentford, the game where Van Dijk went off. We were really bad in that game, in terms of set pieces and things like that. And I remember my dad making a comment during the game, saying something along the lines of like, "We're so bad from set pieces." And I remember making a point at the time, having checked the numbers, that we, at the time, we weren't doing that bad, set piece wise, in terms of conceding from them at least. But I think gradually over the months since, it feels like we've spiralled. It feels like a kind of second half of the season thing where we've got a lot worse from them all of a sudden. And obviously, I assume when you say set pieces, well, you mean like free kicks and things like that, rather than corners.
Yeah, so corners is a separate category.
Yeah. But I think it's something that Liverpool seems to be progressively getting worse with. And I think to an extent sometimes it can be a bit of a confidence thing, and every time you get a set piece against you, you're worried sick basically.
Yeah, I played for some teams in 11-a-side that weren't very good at defending set pieces, and let me tell you this, it's totally a confidence thing. You start absolutely panicking about set pieces and them having them, and the team and you and how you're going to defend them. So one of the things that, well, I'll ask you if we both think that it's been over the last few months that Liverpool have been getting worse, what's the reason for that? Do you think, could it be that we're training so hard on changing formation or different players, or what could it be?
I initially thought it was Van Dijk being absent, because I think in that Brentford game, that was when it seemed to really start for me. And in that game, I'm pretty sure that was the one he went off injured. And then on the back of that, we start suffering a little bit, and it goes back to like what Liverpool were like when we had like Lovren, Clavan, who else did we have at centre half? Just centre backs that weren't early dominant like Van Dijk is basically. But since he's came back, it hasn't really restored back to normal yet, has it? I mean, we saw it against Real Madrid, it was a shambles, wasn't it? Yeah, the specific set piece. And against Newcastle, he started against Newcastle, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Van Dijk, yeah, well, every set piece that they had, we looked all over the place for it. So it's difficult to pinpoint exactly what the problem is at the minute. As I said, I thought it was Van Dijk initially, but since he's come back in, the problems have persisted. So it's just like an ongoing problem that we need to address, really.
Absolutely. So just to give you some idea of the actual data then, Liverpool have conceded 3 goals according to Opta from set pieces, not including corners, this season. In each of the last 4 seasons, that's actually the figure that they've conceded. 3 in 2021-22, just in case anyone thinks we're going back to 1920, which happened a few weeks ago. 3 in 2021, 3 in 1920, not the year, the season, 1920, and 3 in 18-19 as well. So to have conceded 3 in 22 games so far, we're probably looking at 4 or 5 maybe, if you extrapolate that out over the course of a full season. But what really interests me is the shots against is really high. Yeah. And now, we're conceding a lot of shots from these set pieces, nearly one a game. It's 0.73 shots per game. It was never higher than 0.58 in any of the other seasons. So that for me is a concern, because we're giving up shots a lot. And like, we've got a great goalkeeper and he makes a lot of saves, but if you give up loads of shots, you are going to concede more goals. So we'll move on then to the corners this time, which we've only conceded 1 from an actual corner, but according to Opta, this season so far. And again, this time around, actually goals against per 90, 0.05. It's very good. It's joint highest with the 1920 season. But again, area of concern for me, Josh, the shots against per 90 and the expected goals against per 90 are both the highest.
Yeah, I mean, that suggests that we're, to an extent, getting bailed out a little bit by the goalkeeper. But as you say, we're conceding a decent amount. That's like title-winning level, really. But the shots do seem to be a little bit up. Easier to get shots away against, which is obviously a bad thing. But it is peculiar how it just kind of came out of nowhere, really.
Yeah, and then if we look at our last data on this one, I've added up the corners and the set pieces. So again, this time now, because we were quite good at how few we've conceded from corners, when you add the corners in with the set pieces this time around, yeah, it's now middle of the road. It's 0.18 per game. But again, the shots and the expected goals are both the highest over the 5 seasons, which just further illustrates the point. It's the same data, but it illustrates the point that we are giving a lot of shots away. From corners and set pieces, we're averaging 2.32 shots against per 90. That's far too many shots against from a corner or a set piece in a game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, over the course of Klopp's tenure, past couple of years in terms of when Liverpool have been good, I think we tend to give away like maybe 8 or 9 shots per match in total. That is. So obviously, if you're keeping your shots from set pieces and corners down to a minimum, you're going to concede fewer overall. But Liverpool more vulnerable on the defensive side of the game this season, and as a result of that, conceding more shots from set pieces as well in corners. So it's just a bit of a nightmare that we need to solve, isn't it?
Well, I want to ask you on the coaching side of things then. Klopp's obviously gone from through a range of formations, which we've discussed on the deep dive over the last few weeks fairly regularly. Could it be that because we're having such formation changes and player changes that actually the focus on set-piece defending and corner defending may have been shifted?
Possibly. I thought you were going in a different direction with that question, and I thought you were going to say, could the formations potentially disrupt the formation of how we defend the set piece? But I think what I was going to say to that was, regardless of whatever formation you're playing in, your arrangement from set pieces should always permanently kind of remain roughly the same. But that would make sense. You know, Liverpool are working on different things behind the scenes, specifically against the ball and improving that side of the game and working on diamonds and 4-4-2 shapes and things like that. Maybe we're dedicating a bit less to set pieces, but at the same time, I doubt it, considering like it's such a low scoring sport. These set piece goals can win you games or lose you games in an instant like that. So it's, even despite Liverpool's issues in open play, it's still a massive area of concern for Klopp to address. So I think if we have deviated attention from this, that needs addressing. That's not a good idea in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think of when Liverpool defend the corner, you know, the formation that Liverpool have got, we generally have 4 or 5, I can't remember if it's 4 or 5, I think it's 5 across the 6-yard line. Andy Robertson normally is the fella on the front stick. Then you've got a midfielder, a centre-half, normally Matip or Joe Gomez, I think. Bobby Firmino or the number 9 in between the 2 centre-halves and someone else at the back stick. Right. One of the things that is interesting is that what we've looked at over the last few weeks is the centre-halves have been changing a lot and the number 9's brand new. And that Bobby Firmino, I think, it was always put in between Van Dijk and whoever he was partnered with, generally Matip or Joe Gomez, whatever, before Konate got here. Now that 3 was always a regular 3, right in the heart in front of our goalkeeper. With Gakpo having started, with Núñez having started, and with the centre-backs changing, that actually, right in the middle of that line, has changed quite considerably, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And I think one underrated aspect of Firmino's game as well is his aerial ability. He's very good in the air, Firmino. We've touched on previous weeks how Gakpo, despite being like 6'3", is not the best in the air. And I think on top of that, Van Dijk is obviously the most dominant figure that we've got in the box. And I think lately, like Real Madrid as an example recently, I think teams have been trying to find ways to kind of put deliveries away from Van Dijk, you know, avoiding Van Dijk essentially. It's something that teams have tried in the past, but for whatever reason, Liverpool have been prepared enough to deal with it. But lately, it seems to be like you can avoid Van Dijk, you can target the weak areas, and Liverpool don't really have any answers.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to show you, we're going to change up the set a little bit, and we're going to show you exactly what teams have been doing to target Liverpool from set pieces. So I said we were going to change it up a little bit. I've got some stills from 3 games that Liverpool have conceded from a set piece or a corner, and I just want to show you a tactic, Josh, and what I believe teams are doing. So this is a goal that Brighton scored. I think this was like the 91st minute or something like that. It was late on in the game. Obviously, you've got the free kick taker over here. You've got a player that's heavily involved in the game, the number 30, over on the left-hand side. And I just want to take your eye to these 2 players inside. Now, this player is blocking James Milner already. This player is going to make a run and become a blocker later in the scene. So if I just get rid of those marks and move it on, you can see the block is taking place right there. And as the ball comes across, number 5 is in position. So he's had 2 lads now, James Milner, who've blocked him off in 1 free kick, which is a bit mad, isn't it? The ball is right here, and it's just coming down and dropping down nicely to the fella at the back stick. Now, as the ball is played across, Josh, this guy over here is going to be the goal scorer. So, watch this guy inside of him there. So as the ball comes down and it's played across, Robertson comes back in to take a defensive shape, quite compressed Liverpool's defensive shape here. And as he comes out, feet on the floor, arse into Andy Robertson to make sure that the guy at the back stick has a little bit of space and a little bit of time. And he has so much time, Josh.
It takes about 10 touches, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he does. He has about 2 or 3 touches, you're absolutely right. And then he smashes it into the back stick. Yeah. Which is mad, isn't it? Now, we've seen Liverpool do this time and time again to teams. Maybe not here and here, but we normally have 3 lads in the centre with the 3 markers going that way, and 1 will block and 1 will scoot round or something like that. Yeah. Now, Liverpool, do you think it is possible that someone's targeting this specific weakness, shall we say? Or do you think it's just a little bit of luck?
As in the blocking weakness or the back stick kind of thing?
The back stick and the front stick type of thing.
I think that's definitely potentially targeted, yeah. You know, if we I mean, the ones that we're going to move on to next as well, Liverpool always kind of have a bit of a very central, narrow presence. That's the thing in open play as well, to be honest. And we do tend to be constantly getting attacked this season by teams addressing kind of like the spaces outside of our shape. So I do think that's definitely an area of concern that teams seem to be targeting this season. In terms of the blocks, I think almost opposing teams deserve credit for that. There's an element of like there's not much you can do about that when they happen. I think some of them as well, like the one there where he sticks his backside out, I think that one's just a bit more. I mean, it's not planned, is it? That's kind of in the moment, that's surely, because by this point the set piece sequence has been on for about 10 seconds or so, and it's moved from one side of the penalty box to the other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get. Yeah. Now, see, I think if I can just run this back, I think at this point it might be planned because you're not knocking a ball out for him to shoot.
True.
Now, if he was here and it was knocked to the back stick, I'd imagine it was a little bit more off the cuff. But if you've knocked the ball wide into the penalty area, then for me, there's an option to move that back in. Well, let's move it on anyway.
I would just imagine, just on that, just imagine for that ball from Estupiñán to be put towards the back stick and headed in. I think that's probably been the premeditated plan if there's going to be one. I just can't see the plan being for Matoma to take 14 touches in the box and then put it in the net. I mean, it worked for them, obviously, but...
so maybe first phase was planned, second phase maybe
first phase definitely planned, yeah. This is definitely planned up to this point, but I think the execution of the goal was maybe a bit off the cuff.
Okay, well, let's move it on to the next one then. This time around, we've got a completely different style of free kick that we're facing. It's against Nottingham Forest. We've got a ridiculously high line. Actually, on this, have you seen the stuff in Serie A that the Italian teams are doing now with the deep line?
Is this what Everton were doing under Ancelotti?
They did it a couple of times under Ancelotti, yeah, where they put them here.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Like,
it's the polar opposite, isn't it, to what Premier League teams do?
It's madness. Like, there has been a case, I think, where Liverpool have faced it. I think it might have been AC Milan last season a couple of times.
Yeah,
when we played them. And it's so mad because they just sit deep and go, well, you can't now get a run. We're going to get a run on the ball instead. Yeah. Because there are times when you just the lads, sometimes they run from here, don't they? And they're at speed through the lines before you've even started to turn and run, because you're trying to play them offside at the same time. So the Italian teams have started to go deep. And I think what that might do is, that might put something in the free kick taker's head if they've never faced it before. Like, where am I supposed to kick the ball now?
Yeah.
Because you know when there's a high line where you've got a big fat space for yourself, haven't you? It might be quite interesting to look at that. Maybe on a future deep dive, maybe not in the season or something when we're not doing Liverpool, but we'll get back to Forest anyway. So this time around, I want to draw your eyes to the fella at the back here, who sort of, for use of an American sports term, he's setting the edge. He's saying no one goes past there.
Okay.
Right? So the ball, number 10's got his 2 arms up. That clearly means we're going to fucking score. Now, if I just take it back, this guy's run bends round and he sets the edge.
Yeah.
Right? So we'll move it on. You can see he's moved. The edge has been set and he's got 2 players there. Fabinho +1. There you go. You see head there, Fabinho there, 1 man setting the edge. Ball's coming over the top. Move it on. He's in space, wide. Milner and Fabinho can't quite get out to him yet. And unfortunately, he gets the ball across. It's not a fantastic ball. In fact, it bounces off the post from the shot and then number 9 knocks it in there. So again, we've got another example of blocking, setting the edge, getting around the outside, crossing into the box and Liverpool conceded. I'm going to take you on to a third example that I've found now as well. Again from this season, Manchester City this time, from a corner this time around, but a short corner. So Kevin De Bruyne takes it, plays it inside, moves back out to Kevin De Bruyne. Goal scorer here is Nathan Ake. I want to draw your attention to this man here at the back stick. And Nat Phillips is the fella this time around who's going to be blocked off. So if I move it on, you can see now Ake's coming in here. You've got another man at the edge there. And they've got this guy who's about to block Nat Phillips. So Kevin De Bruyne, as you can see, he's just kicking the ball. As the ball goes up, and it's just in midair, you can just see it there. The block is starting to be set. You can see hands on Nat Phillips. 2 men running in at the back stick. Looks like Cody Gakpo, maybe? No, that'll be Bobby Firmino, won't it? I think. I don't think we'd sign Gakpo at this point. There. So we move it on one more time. Now, Nat Phillips has done well. He's got really, really high. But just notice underneath Nat Phillips, there's a pair of feet planted to the floor.
Yeah.
He's not making any attempt to jump. He's planted to the floor and he's leaning into Nat Phillips. You can see Ake's diving as well. As I move it on now, Ake's headed the ball. Nat Phillips, big arm up, complaining, pushed in the back or held or something. And as you move it on one more time, he's still got his arm up, the ball's in the back of the net. And that's unfortunately how Liverpool have been getting targeted this season on set pieces. Question for you. What do you do about that?
It's difficult. I think that City one there, I must admit, I think that's a lot of credit towards City for me. I think that's extremely well worked set piece. They've adjusted the angle to give De Bruyne, who's like arguably the best deliverer of the ball in the Premier League, an optimal locations to deliver that. Towards the back stick, there's a good header of the ball there, and the block works perfectly. So I think that's a really effective set piece, that one. I think the Forest one is a bit more embarrassing, really. A bit more of a problem. Can we go back to it?
Yeah, sure.
There's just there's too many players being occupied by one lad there.
Yeah.
And I don't think when Liverpool are at their absolute sharpest, that happens. I think Liverpool deal with this I think they deal with a lot of these set piece issues just simply by being more proactive in a lot of situations. Even once the ball gets to him, is it Johnson?
I don't know, to be honest, mate.
I think it might be. He's just got too much time and space to do what he wants with it, essentially. I think Estepinian, in the other clip that we've got as well, the Brighton one, he's got time and space in the penalty box. So I think Klopp has mentioned on a few occasions this season about Liverpool just needs to essentially win more challenges. So I do think a lot of this is just kind of like an onus thing, taking hold of the situations and dealing with them, really. It sounds a little bit simplistic, but
you know it's coming. You've got to win your one-on-one battles. That's what we're saying here, isn't it?
Yeah. It does sound a little bit yada, doesn't it? But I think a lot of the issues are stemming from that, really, because organisation-wise, Liverpool are kind of doing similar things to what they've always done, really. It's just kind of like a recurring theme with the season in open play as well, where it's like a hunger thing, a getting to the ball first thing, a second balls thing, you know, that sort of stuff.
Interesting stuff. Sorry, Dad, as well. Josh was very mean to you there. No, my dad would go, that's fucking shit. It's shit. That's what my dad would do. He wouldn't even look at it. He'd just blame everybody and say that they're shit, because that's the way that my dad is. Sorry, Dad. Now the apologies from me. So there you go. That has been the deep dive for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section, of course. If you want the second show of the week over on Redmen Plus, then we'll be looking into Liverpool's midfield again, but this time with a slightly different slant on it, and looking at the profile of player that Liverpool should be targeting this coming summer. Non-Jude Bellingham target. I think we already know he's going over there. If you want to get that for 50% off for the first 3 months, then go over and use the code DEEP. Redmenplus.com. The code is DEEP, and you'll get 50% off for 3 months. We do a deep dive on YouTube and one deep dive on Plus every single week. So get over for the second episode right now. Try.
Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that show. Do you want to get your hands on some amazing Liverpool merchandise? Well, if you become a Redmen Plus Club legend on a yearly subscription, we'll instantly send you 2 merch codes to get you 2 pieces of merchandise from redmenmerch.com. T-shirts are amazing. Go and get yourselves one. Simply become a Redmen Plus Club legend on a yearly subscription, and that code will be in your inbox very, very shortly.